Hey, Superintendent, congratulations, and thank you for taking time out for your summer night. Are you familiar with the Class Size Matters bill that the legislature passed, sir?
I have, yes, I'm familiar with it, yes.
So the mayor and the chancellor have both come out against it. Can you speak to the ramifications on our district if that bill were to become law?
I, if I understand the ramifications of the bill correctly, it would call upon the state to provide funding and the city to fund seats and schools in a manner that applies to the like further constraints on the size of classes. So um, I'm not a city budget manager, but what I would imagine the implications would be funding for schools. I would imagine that funding for schools would be impacted. What impact that would have would really come down to what the actual pieces in the bill um, kind of what the how do I say this, like what the ramifications of the bill would have for how the city allocated funding in the school budget. Um, and that would be for our schools in District 20 and any other schools. I'm trying to think about how the impact would be any different for our schools in District 20 from that level, from like a from a state bill or state law. I'd have to think about it a little bit more in terms of how it would impact our schools on top of how it would impact any other district in the city. Because it would, from a macro level, it's going to impact the amount of funding that's going to be allocated to schools based off of our fair student funding formula at the city level, and then how the state allocates any state aid to the city as well.
But would it be fair to say that we want to go from, say, 30 kids to 25 kids, 5 fewer kids per class? If you have fewer kids per school, and like you said, each kid comes with a dollar amount attached to his head, an overall school, if they don't increase the number per kid, you're going to have less money per school.
That's one. That's one. That's one definite piece of the current existing formula that would be impacted. With the fair student funding formula and weights applied to individual children, general ed students, and then and special populations having additional funding attached to them. With less children, the fund there would be a smaller dollar amount allocated to that school.
And also,
That's my just from that one aspect. Yes.
and also we have a few schools that are really popular. We have some schools that are underpopulated. So another thing would be schools like Diker, that's at 100 and something percent capacity or 201% capacity. They could force those middle school kids into schools that are underpopulated right now.
Can you say more about that? I just want to make sure I understand.
Well, so we have schools that are overpopulated, and if you say that you have fewer kids for that school, they'll even be more overpopulated. I think Diker's at 201%. Now, if they only have to have 25 kids per class, they're going to be at what, 240%, 230%. So that's going to push kids into schools. We talked about today how parents who are rising middle school children didn't get any of their top choices. Now, even fewer parents of middle schools are going to get their top choices because there are going to be fewer seats available.
If the class size, long story short, like if the class sizes are, if they're mandated to be reduced, then yes, the building utilization would also be impacted. So that would definitely be something that would be factored in.
Yeah, and it'd be really difficult to kind of build out these spaces. We're pretty packed. Putting on stories on buildings in New York City, that would not be a logical an option for us.
Yeah, honestly, what we're doing in the district, we have a lot of not even thinking about class size matters bill, just looking at our building utilization rates in general. One thing that we're really looking to do in the district is, which is I guess for us a good problem, is exploring for the building of new schools. We've got 4 sites coming along the way to be able to alleviate situations like, not just 201 or a myriad of our schools that are at over 100% utilization to be able, because again, when a school is over 100% utilization, it means that space is not being used in the ways for all of the kind of robust programming that can be provided to kids is not being able to be provided in the ways that the original designers of the building intended them to be. So, yes, smaller class sizes would have an additional impact on that, but we're really trying to make sure that we're providing that space for kids, period, across the district.
In the several middle schools that are very underutilized, are there things that you're doing maybe to try to develop programs to make them kinds of magnet schools, to give some, why are they under enrolled? Why are parents not wanting to go there? And things that you and your team can do working with the community to see what we can put into those schools to make them a more of a desirable choice for their child.
Yeah, the enrollment trends in the district is something that is definitely has our attention. In terms of having what you, as you call them, under-enrolled schools, we don't, as of yet, have any officially under-enrolled schools. Again, we're looking at enrollment patterns and looking at late October, early November to see what actual enrollment trends are in our schools. If you're going by building utilization rate, we have had 2 schools that were below 100%. That by itself does not, equal an under-enrolled school. But that being said, we're looking very closely at what building utilization rates are going to be, with this incoming class of kids to see what impact that has on kind of what Steve was bringing up earlier, the question that he asked earlier in the meeting, like what do the enrollment trends look like in the district and what implications does that have for our work moving forward? And I think you're bringing up exactly that. Like once we see, and we're hopefully going to be able to see soon what that actually looks like in the mid-late fall, what that's going to mean for how we go about doing community outreach, how we look at schools that may need support or other kinds of attention to be able to address any types of enrollment patterns that we find need that type of extra attention or support.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Steve.